So this Alex Bregman article that Jeff Passan wrote, a long article about Alex Bregman's acclimation to Boston that I wish wasn't so long because it did make me miss Bregman, this article. So we'll get to the kind of the damning part for the Astros, or at least perceived as damning yesterday when it dropped. But the overall tone of the article, Seth, outside of the part where it talks about Bregman becoming basically 2019 Bregman all over again as a hitter, was all they interviewed a bunch of the young guys on the Astros, and I think it was Marcelo Meyer who said he went up to Bregman and said, "Hey, bro, can we marinate and talk baseball with you?"
Yeah.
And Bregman really liked that, the whole idea of marinating in the clubhouse, just chilling and talking ball every day, man.
Yeah.
And the effect he's had on these young guys. Yeah.
The same thing he did with, I think it was DeZenzo last year that would sit down with Bregman, and Bregman
nerd out.
Bregman's like an old man with a long white beard, talk to people who come visit him on top of his mountain.
Yeah.
And Passan couldn't have gushed more about how well regarded Bregman is around the league as being one of the smartest minds in baseball and all of that. This is really a hit piece on the Astros is what it was.
Bregman,
he didn't even, without even mentioning really the Astros as much at all other than the Bregman's tenure there, this was a hit piece on the Astros, damn it.
Bregman has cultivated a reputation as perhaps the smartest baseball mind in the game, a combination of film hound, analytics dork, eagle-eyed scout, and pure knower of ball. Oh, God. I want to barf. No, I hate knower of ball. I hate knower. I hate knower as a description of somebody. I'm a knower of things. Shut up. It's not a word. Pure knower of ball. Gleaned from a wildly successful big league career. As Meyer put it in his unique verbiage, "Hey, bro, do you just want to marinate in the clubhouse and talk shop?" End quote.
And Bregman was like, "Sure, fella.
Yeah.
I'd love to. I'll do that anytime." Bregman said it reminded him of him when he was a youngster, and he just wanted to sit in the clubhouse for 4 hours after games talking about baseball. I remember Lance McCullers telling a story about Bregman early on, where on the flights after games, he would just have his head glued onto either his tablet or the screen in front of him, watching whatever was being broadcast, like watching baseball constantly. He's just a 100% junkie.
Yep, 100% junkie. Now, to get to the part where this was what was making its way around the internet yesterday, which people started pointing fingers at Alex Bregman and Troy Snitker, the two hitting coaches for the Astros. The deal that Bregman got, $40 million a year, was a big deal. Probably bigger than somebody whose numbers Bregman has put up the last few years should have gotten, right? Like people were, that opened a lot of eyes. Wow, even though just a short-term deal where Bregman's got some outs and things like that, $40 million a year pops. But Bregman and the Red Sox both believe that he could, this is Passan talking now, could get himself back to the version of himself from 2018 and 2019. And I think we need to remind people, like 2019 Bregman was like an otherworldly hitter. He's a 40 home run guy. OPS of over 1,000. If you don't remember that, I get it, because we've been through a lot since then as Astros fans. That's been a long time. That's 6 years ago. Bregman, but so the Red Sox believe they could get Bregman back to that point. That's when Boston's hitting machine went to work. Red Sox coaches already had put together a presentation to explain how and why he needed to fix his swing. Over time, Bregman had developed almost imperceptible bad habits. Timing of loading his hands was too late and too fast. Moving his hands as the ball left the pitcher's hand left him vulnerable. Bregman didn't possess the sort of bat velocity to make up for that. Bregman said, quote, "After all those successful years, I was like, I want to be better, I want to be better, I want to be better. So I started trying to change things and improve, instead of doing what made me who I am and just refining what I was already doing at the time." End quote. They go on to talk about how the Red Sox hitting coaches got Bregman into the cage, which is his favorite dude. Just win in the cage every day.
Don't worry about the results in the game. Just win in the cage. And just get back to basics. And focus on the process.
And lo and behold, he's a top 3 MVP candidate in the American League right now.
If I'm going to give the Astros hitting coaches a break here, the only thing I might say is that, look, sometimes when you hear the same message from a coach, especially kids whose father is their coach time after time after time, that it starts to lose its import and its impact. And likewise, as a coach, when you're working with the same player all the time, you kind of develop blind spots for that player. So sometimes just by virtue of having a new set of eyeballs, on a guy that can make the difference. I'm not here to litigate whether Cintron and Snitker need to be replaced or fired. I think for me, the biggest takeaway after reading this article is, man, of all the guys that you could have bent on and gone outside of your in terms of being a GM or an owner.
Yeah.
Of all the potential free agents, this is the guy. Yeah. Like, this is the guy. And frankly, Carlos Beltran, if it were not for the trash can scandal, Carlos Beltran was that guy that helped the Astros get to World Series caliber, because he was the guy in the clubhouse that was like a coach that could work with guys, teach them how to do things differently and more professionally. That's the part of it that really stings, is that, man, if you really wanted to retain some of that soul of the championship era Astros, Bregman might have been the most vital guy of guys that were, Bregman was a young guy when all that was going on, but now he's become that Carlos Beltran.
He's actually an all-star. Like Beltran got here at the end, and that's all he was there for pretty much, was to do what you're talking about. Bregman's still only 30, 31 years old, and he's got an OPS of 1,100. Guy just hit his 11th home run last night. He's got 11 home runs. We're a quarter of the way through the season. He's on pace to have a 2019 season again. He's back to being an OPS over 1,000 guy. And this is in the time of the calendar year where normally he was having to play catch-up from. He wasn't doing stuff like this remotely close until June the last few years, and now he's doing it. I'm telling you, this article hurt to read. As an Astros
really was.
fan.
It was because it was a really great indication of everything that people value in Bregman above and beyond the box score, and now also because of the actual. It wasn't the personal batting coach or anything. I keep seeing a lot of people on social media say, "Hey, you guys are overblowing this because these guys all have their own personal batting coach." He is specifically crediting the Red Sox batting coaches with identifying flaws in his process and helping him fix them, and now he's playing like a perennial all-star.
Yeah, to me, like reading this article, like that, the hitting part to me was less frustrating than the clubhouse part, because this team is just missing juice right now, and I'm not talking because their OPS is 15th in baseball. I'm talking. They miss some kind of sizzle on this team.
We talked about it yesterday. It was the personality and the energy and just the entire vibe, even before the Astros were a world, was just different than what you have now. In 2015 and 2016, there was a spunk to that team that's just different than what it is now. It's a boring baseball team. Yep. It's annoying me.
Yep. All right, so it's a good article, though. I would say, unless you want to have your feelings hurt. The last ad on this thing, and then we'll get over to the Texans schedule, is that I do wonder if at some point Jim Crane is going to have to bend on his policies about not doing these opt-out deals, not swimming in the end of the pool that other teams swim in when it comes to bringing these guys, because it's starting to dry up. You're starting to get to a stage where you just can't let guys like this keep walking anymore.
The Red Sox deal is not a deal that would have broken the Astros. It wasn't a 10-year, the $300 million guaranteed contract or anything like that. They could have done the Astros deal or the Red Sox deal.
Yep.
By the time Bregman made his decision, then it wasn't feasible. But if they had offered it up front, I don't know if Bregman would have accepted it up front, because it was just it got down to an auction variety. He wanted to wait and see what all his options were.
Yeah. And I guess I'm giving Crane a little bit of latitude right now, in that they've got a lot of dead money there with Abreu and Montero. Yeah. But that dead money is there because you and Jeff Bagwell and the non-GM triumvirate there, Reggie Jackson, are the ones who gave Abreu and Montero those contracts, So you put yourself in that spot.
I know that now. This is interesting from Jim Crane's perspective. When he sits down and he's thinking, well, I didn't want to pay for last year's version of Bregman, but I would totally have paid for this year's version of Bregman.
Yeah.
And then you look at the coaching staff, and you look back to the article, and then you look to the coaching staff.
Amen, man.
It's impossible to ignore it.
Yep.